Mwah! What up, suckers? Jet and Taco here again for another scheme. How you doing? What is everybody up to on this? I guess it's fine. Saturday? I hope everybody is having a very, very evil time today. And that lots of chillaxing is happening. You know, Saturday is about the chillaxing normally. Unless you're a live streamer, then it's about the streaming. It's about the streaming. And today we have something very unique and very, well, I guess not that unique, like it's been done before. But we have something interesting, a kind of stream that I have not done before. Wherein I am going to watch some videos, and they're probably going to make me angry, and then I'm going to talk about them. Yeah, I mean, it's a simple concept. I don't know why I'm over-explaining it. There is a little something to explain. I am at least starting, and I'm probably going to be primarily focusing on watching videos from Prager-U. Prager University, which is not really a university. I might have to explain what Dennis Prager, or what Prager-U is. So, Prager-U is most known as a YouTube channel and think tank. On YouTube, it's very common that their videos are played as promoted videos or ads, and their whole thing is right wing to what I would say, leaning far right politics and, family values, quote unquote. The kind of, just content for a group of people not much like myself. See, I am a villain, and I think the system is shit. The current socioeconomic systems, our current political diarrhea is not particularly good. Prager-U makes content focusing on good things. I heard the circus would be here. Yeah, something of a circus is gonna be here. If you saw my tweet, you might have saw that I put a clown nose on Dennis Prager because that's funny. So, you know what? Why don't we just go over and look at the circus? I'm gonna come down here. Where is my circus? Come here, circus. Okay, and let everybody see the circus. Okay, this is Prager-U's YouTube channel. They have videos featuring Mike Rowe and Robert Kiyosaki. Let me see. What does their about page say? What does the clown's about page say? Prager University is the world's leading conservative nonprofit that is focused on changing minds through the creative use of digital media. Taking full advantage of today's technology and social media, we educate millions of Americans and young people about the values that make America great. Yeah. Also, I'm turning... Oh, wait. No, instead of doing that, what I should do is turn down this. Okay. The BGM was too loud in my ears. Let me know if it's too loud for you guys. The happy, upbeat social media, probably not the... social media. The happy, upbeat background music, probably not the best vibe for, this. But that's what we're going with. Also, can you guys see what is happening on this screen? I hope you can. I hope it's good enough. I will read you anything that really needs to be seen. Americans equal not young people. Got it. Yeah, I mean, by Americans, what they actually mean is like rich white people. Prager-U, of course, is named after and run by Dennis Prager, who is basically best friends with all of the biggest oil tycoons. I think he's famously friends with the Koch brothers, who, if you don't know the Koch brothers, their whole deal is like oil, steel, and coal. Especially coal. The Koch brothers love coal. They're like, you know what would fix the world? Fracking and coal. They're modern day superheroes. They're modern day Iron Men, who want to save our power resources by bringing back coal mining to America. Like the dumbest bullshit. Like the absolute just fucking worst. That's the kind of videos we're gonna be watching. It's probably gonna get me pretty heated. Me getting heated might make funny content. If you see something funny, clip it, please. I beg, please. Okay. Where should we start? I did see, and I've not heard of this before. Prager-U is making content for children. Look at this. Kids shows. It's in a for kids section. Even, I scroll down. They have a kids channel. Prager-U has a side channel for children. This right here, I can't stand. So let's look at something. I guess their main series is Leo and Layla's History Adventures. Frederick Douglass. Yeah, I want to see where this goes to. Because, like, Benjamin Franklin, okay, yeah, whatever. What are they going to say about freaking Frederick Douglass? With Neil Armstrong? What? No, I have to watch Neil Armstrong. What the hell? I was about to think that I got a Prager-U ad, and I totally forgot that I'm just straight up watching Prager-U. Let's turn the audio up a bit.
Hey, Leo. What you doing out here?
Just looking at the moon. It's really big tonight.
I just saw your new soccer trophy. Very cool.
I didn't win the trophy. We lost.
Man touch moon, then man destroys moon. I mean, perhaps. Maybe they're fans of moon mining. Or like moon colonies the same way. Certain tech billionaire is a fan of Mars colonies.
Every match, and I played terrible. Everyone got one for participating.
Well...
Wait, they're already ranting about participation trophy? Really? Why? Why are you ranting to kids about participation trophies? Like, this is already, like... the whole participation trophies thing simply upsets me. And it upsets me for very good reasons, right? So there's this whole argument from the American right wing that primarily just don't have anything better to do, where they're like, the problem with America today is that we give kids participation trophies every time they participate in stuff, instead of only rewarding the winners and telling the rest to suck hot cocks. Right? Like, fucking, like, kids get sad, you give them stuff. And also, like, the people who get made fun of for participation trophies are not the people who give out the participation trophies. They're the, like, babies getting participation trophies that these guys want to make fun of. You got a 5th place trophy from a spelling bee. Just 'cause I can't spell, at least I didn't get a trophy for something that's shit. Like, man, shut the fuck up.
Well, at least it looks good. Bigger than most of my trophies.
Yeah, I guess, but honestly, it makes me feel weird. Trophies are good, but I don't feel like I earned it. My coach said we should feel good because we tried, so I guess I should be proud, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is a little weird to get a trophy when you lose.
You're so good at sports, you almost never lose. I'm starting to think competition just might not be my thing.
Leo, competition is good for you, and it might not feel like it, but losing is actually good for you too.
No, I'm actually leaving this on. I'm leaving this face on. This is the right face. I'm leaving this button on. Okay. So like competition being good for you is a maybe. That's a maybe, right? Like gentle competition can be good at inspiring you. But like in competition good continue to be a loser. I mean, I guess, like, I don't know, in my opinion, and this is kind of more of an opinion than something I know for a fact, intense competition can be, like, really bad for certain people. Some people either get, like, addicted to it. They get, like, addicted to competition, which is not the best thing. Or they, like, overcompete and work themselves to death. It's sort of like the, like, you know, A student mentality, where you get, like, oh, 4.0 isn't good enough. You know, like, Mary Sue has a 4.2 GPA, so, you know, I need to get a 4.6 GPA. And, like, that runs some people into the ground. Competition isn't universally good.
Why would losing ever be a good thing?
Life's famous winners started with losses.
Like who?
What?
Yeah, let's go.
What?
Let's see.
Oh no. It's like one of those classic baby cartoons where the plot is like you just like travel through time to meet a historical person, except for like Neil Armstrong wouldn't be that old today. Like, I think Buzz Aldrin is like still alive. So like taking the name of somebody who's not that old like this probably going to be problematic. And also there's kind of the whole like this is the laziest way to do this trope I've ever seen. Like, I know there was a lot of like shows and books on when I was little that had the same thing, but like you open a magic book and transport it. There's like the magic tree house and stuff like that. Except for like they literally just type when and where they want to go on a fucking phone. Really? That was your best idea? It was your best idea for a time travel device? It was just a phone app? What the fucking lazy writing is this shit?
Layla, we're in outer space.
Leo, I think we're on the moon. Was my phone listening to us? You just were talking about the moon. This can't be right.
I don't like where this computer's taking us. I'm gonna take over and land us manually. Neil! Do we have enough fuel? We're almost out! I got this. Woo! We did it! USA! USA! USA!
What? Why are they chanting USA like football players? What? Or like football fans even. Football players don't even do that. Not even a time, just a value they want to learn. Yeah, I guess. That's even worse, though. Just like, here, what's our lesson about? Like, Miss Frizzle is like more interesting as a method than this is. But also, like, why are they chanting like football fans? USA! USA! That's, it's just silly. I think it's just silly.
Hey, the eagle has landed.
Leo, aliens?
Either aliens or astronauts.
OMG, this is incredible. We won. Buzz, buzz, easy.
Do they expect kids not to recognize the most recognizable spaceship design ever? Right? Like, the fucking, like, Apollo gold foil plated moon pods are way more recognizable than, like, the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon wishes it could be as recognizable as a gold foil plated, like, walker bot thing. Like, I've actually seen several recreations in person, and I've seen bits of the real thing and, like, prototypes of it because I've been to both Huntsville, Alabama, as well as I've been to the Space Center in Houston. So, like, this shit has a very recognizable design. Even, like, little kids know what it is. Just weird. This is not, like, a political weirdness. This is the problem with children's cartoons issue, but yeah.
I'm gonna go out there and fulfill the mission. Okay, I'll get everything else ready. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Ah! Aliens!
No. We're not aliens. We're Leo and Layla from the future. We thought you might be aliens.
Ah.
Well, we're American astronauts. I'm Neil Armstrong, and Buzz Aldrin is in the lunar module. It's the summer of 1969. What are you doing here?
We're trying to learn about competition, and for some reason, our time machine delivered us here. It might have made a mistake.
Uh-huh. Actually, you're in the perfect time and place. I don't mean to sound boastful, but you've just...
The perfect time and place for Prager-U is the 60s. Honestly, that encompasses, like, everything about Prager-U. The perfect time and place. America in the 1960s. No problems. Nothing wrong with the 1960s. No, like, problems with the civil rights movement or, like, murder of gay people. But none of that. There's just, none of that. The 1960s, perfect.
just witnessed one of the greatest victories in history. A victory for the USA,
Exactly,
but also
Proto,
a victory
exactly.
for mankind.
You getting here to the moon?
Yep, let me tell you about it. After the massive destruction of World War II, the two most powerful countries were the United States of America and the Soviet Union.
Debatably,
Is the Soviet
yeah.
Union the same thing as Russia?
Close. Russia's been around for hundreds of years.
I mean,
But in the year of 1917,
hundreds of years? I mean, really thousands of years, but okay, yeah. Yeah, Oh, I forgot all of these countries that no longer exist because Russia. Like, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, those aren't countries anymore.
a group of people called the Communists took it over. These
Oh, the communists, of course. The problem is the communists, not a specific communist party in Russia. It for sure wasn't that the Workers' Party took over Russia and then there was a coup within the Workers' Party that replaced the Communist Party with a more authoritarian kind of rulership. No. It's not as complex as that. It's the communists took over. Sure, buddy, sure.
communists called themselves Soviets, and the new country they set up was called the Soviet Union. Over the years, the Soviets.
Why would they want to explain the bad guys? I don't know, because people like bad guys, they have, like, complex backstories and, like, human motivations and not just, like, cardboard cutouts of Nazis, basically. Like, that's basically what you're doing, is you're just putting, like, you're just putting a whole cardboard cutout and being like, this guy's is bad guys. That's why I consider myself a villain. Because guys like this, the people who make this shit, consider themselves basically like superheroes. They're like, we are like Iron Man and Batman. And so I'm like, okay, well then I'm fucking Lex Luthor. Like, duh.
Expanded their territory and took over many countries. It can't.
Actually, I'm not like Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is like too wealthy. I'm like Kite Man. I'm like Kite Man.
Be confusing, but just think of Russia as being the biggest country inside the communist-led Soviet Union.
Okay, gotcha.
And we know from our trip to see President Reagan that communism is a system of government that oppresses people and makes life terrible.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch that video. What? Communism is a system of government that makes life terrible. That's the shittest oversimplification I've seen in my goddamn life. What? Like, that's not even, like, oversimplifying an actual real point. That's just, like, a bad point. It's fake. Ayo, what, Proto? Ayo, what? Like... Also, this video... For one thing, this video has been ratioed to all hell. That it is so blunt. It's not even like, like communism is an economic system that is often like taken over by authoritarians and led to like problems, which I would say is a valid point. Like, it is an overstated point in the discussion of like communism versus socialism versus capitalism, which is a discussion of economic systems. What did they say? Let's go back on that.
That communism is a system of government that oppresses people and makes life terrible.
Communism is a system of government. It's more an economic system than a system of government, but okay. That oppresses people and makes life terrible. Like, imagine what these guys would say if I made the same oversimplification with capitalism. Capitalism is a system of government that's oppressive towards anyone who's not wealthy and makes life fucking shit. Like, it would be the exact same thing. And they would make the same point. They would be like, how does an economic system based on, like, value in some way, like, an economic system based on production of value, creation of value or worth, make an oppressive government that makes life shit? Well, you would have to actually explain the whole, like, well, that means the hyper wealthy fucking, like, stomp on everybody else to get where they are and then ruin shit for everybody else. Right? Like, you could try to explain that. You could be like, well, the government being so pro-capitalism means that they accept capital, aka money, as a way to determine who should make the rules. So the people who make money make the rules on what you're allowed to do so they can keep making money and then, like, fuck up shit for everybody. Like, just bad things.
Whoa. Ronald Reagan, the actor, became president?
Yeah, a really good one, too.
Well, it sounds like...
Ronald Reagan, of course, a really good president that everybody loves. Of course. Look, as much as the modern day right wing wants to say that Reagan was universally loved, like, there's a lot of people still alive today who were around when Reagan was president. You know, if you just, like, go to an old folks' home and talk to people, like, sure, some of them will be like, Reagan was pretty great, but a lot of them will be like, I mean, Reagan existed. Like, in a way, Reagan is sort of like Obama. Like, you could say, like, plenty of, like, nice things about socioeconomic policies and success or whatever, but, like, pretty meh. Except for Reagan has one major difference. Reagan is responsible for trickle-down economic theory, or at least is credited for it. He didn't come up with it. He was the president, not, the economics master. But he is credited for Reaganomics, the economic policy of give tax cuts to the wealthy to stimulate the economy, which is the biggest load of bullshit to basically ever exist. Reaganomics is basically the concept of, like, okay, so if we give rich people money, then rich people will spend their money, and, like, if you buy 10 loaves of bread, the baker makes more money. And it completely ignores the fact that rich people have so much money that they don't need to spend it, because once you have, like, several $100 million, like, think right now, tell me right now, what would you spend $100 million on? And you have to use all of the $100 million, or you can't use it at all. You'd be like, like 7 Ferraris, a private island, 4 yachts, like, probably a bunch of junk. Exactly, right? Like, you can't actually stimulate the economy by giving rich people money, because rich people already have all of their needs met, right? Like, people are generally poor because they are lacking some element of basic needs, right? Like, poor people in America aren't necessarily the poorest people in the entire world, but, if you're poor, you generally don't eat a lot of really nice food. Like, ramen twice a week is pretty common. You might not have a car, or if you do have a car, it is days before something on that thing goes out, right? You're usually in need of something when you're poor. Rich people don't have that problem, right? Like, if you have a couple $100 million, around, you don't really need to buy anything. You can only eat so much food. You can only live in so many mansions. Wait, I think I'm poor. Yeah, probably. Because the middle class has been shrinking for decades and decades. At this point, there's almost no middle class, right? Like, what used to be considered the middle class because of growing wealth inequality is now, like, the lower class, right? Like, what was the middle class, like, 50 years ago is no longer the middle of income, right? Like, it's crazy, but I think most of us actually qualify as relatively poor. We might be on the high side of it, but, like, relatively poor to middle class is where most people sit. And then, since the growing wealth inequality, the rich have become, the super rich, right? Like, used to back in the day, you own one, like, fancy sports car, and you're considered wealthy. These days, like, do you see what, like, people with a lot of money do? Right? Like, have you seen the mansion videos that most of the really huge YouTubers do? Or, like, think of Mr. Beast. Like, Mr. Beast does a lot for charity, seems like a relatively nice guy, makes pretty interesting content, and employs a hell of a lot of people to make that content work. But more or less, he had so much money that he was able to just basically make videos of him spending money, which made him more money, so that he can now do things like, in this video, I built a mansion on my private island. And I gave my best friend 27 Xboxes. Like, even if Mr. Beast is a relatively nice guy, that level of wealth inequality is problematic. Like, a bunch of people got upset when the Twitch information came out, right? And a bunch of the really big people on Twitch got called out for, like, wait a second, you're making, like, in a month what most people make as their yearly income. And they're like, well, yeah, look, here's how it is. That's the way money works. Wealth inequality in capitalism is not going to go away. That's kind of the whole point of capitalism, right? Like, if you know anything about Das Kapital, like, capitalism is the concept of exploitation. Though a lot of the people who really got in trouble for it were people like Hassan Abi, who is really famous for making more left-wing content and being against the hyper-wealthy. So it coming out that he has immense income really upset some people. But, like, look, that's how it be. That's the whole point of capitalism. I think something that not enough people understand about capitalism in itself is the fact that you have to exploit somebody for capitalism to work. That's the reason that we keep going through problems with, like, slavery. Like, you go all the way back before the Civil War. You go to the 1700s, they were, like, doing the Revolutionary War, writing the Constitution. They were having the argument, should we or should we not with the slaves? And what they came to the conclusion of is our economy cannot work without slavery. So they made a compromise in the Constitution. Then it came to the Civil War. They were talking about, releasing all of the slaves. The South was right that their economy would be fucked. I'm not saying that they were wrong. They were wrong to keep slavery is bad. I shouldn't have to say that. I think everybody pretty much universally agrees that slavery is bad. But capitalist economies cannot work without slavery, because capital is basically producing things. Unless you can produce things for cheaper than they're worth, capitalism doesn't work. So you need slave labor or something similar to it at some point up the chain, or your economy just won't work. There's just no way to make a capitalist economy without that. And, like, we outlawed slavery, and you know what we then immediately did after we outlawed slavery in America? We made a prison system that can pay people, I think it's something like 3 cents an hour, to do work in prison. We made more criminal laws and hyped up law enforcement, so we can have more prison workers. And we started making more heavy exploitation of other countries. people will always complain that, like, everything in America is made in China. Well, there's a reason it's made in China. Because in China, they don't call it slavery, but slavery is legal. You can lock workers in a building with, like, barely any food or water for weeks at a time and work them literally to death. Which, like, you and I, in common terms, would call slavery. But that's the only reason the like, global capitalist economy can work at all. Like, if you do any research into it, you'll find that, like, a lot of products require slave labor to this day to be produced. Every cell phone, smartwatch, piece of technology like that, you need lithium and cobalt and gold for those to work. Well, lithium, cobalt, and gold are mostly mined in Africa under what we would consider slavery conditions. People get paid, like, cents an hour to go into dangerous, nasty holes and dig up rocks, and they don't get a choice in the matter, really. That's a problem. We have, like, most candy, especially chocolate, is produced in South America under, basically they have, like, children pick all the cocoa beans and manage the farms. They get paid less than shit, and don't really have an option in the matter. I would consider that slavery too. And, like, yeah, it's very convenient throughout most of your day in the modern day to, like, ignore that fact so that you can live your life and work your job and not be sad about it. The same way that before the Civil War, most people in the North were like, that slavery thing is, like, not an immediate problem right this second. It's sort of distant and not that common. Except for, like, that's not really that true. It was never true. It was just, like, convenient to believe that, because it makes you, like, not feel like shit. But, like, basically anything you buy has to have somebody getting ripped off somewhere through the chain for it to work. You know, like, if every economy was a bartering-based system, you would trade equivalent goods. But nobody can make money, quote-unquote, if you're trading everything for the exact value of the materials and labor, right? If 10 eggs is worth 1 pork chop, and you trade 10 eggs for a pork chop, nobody wins or loses in that. Nobody's getting a better deal than the other. You're getting equal, like, time and labor. You're trading time and labor. The only way that somebody can then make money without themselves doing labor is to exploit somebody else's labor, which is basically capitalism in a nutshell, right? Like, you know, you talk about it with old-timey terms, the factory boss, the guy who owns the factory, doesn't have to do that much because all of the factory workers do the work, and he just siphons off a little bit of the value of each person's work to himself for organizing it. Well, that, because we're in... Oh, thank you for the refill, Proto. Because we're in what would be generally considered late-stage capitalism, we've gone, you know, far off the rails and stopped regulating economy as heavily as we used to. Mostly because of guys like this who make this shit. We've regulated the economy less and less. And so the people the like factory bosses aren't just directly profiting off of factory workers, right? They're profiting off of labor like 6 ways up in a chain, right? They're profiting off of basically slave miners gathering resources for like heavily underpaid like factory children in China to make a thing to like pay somebody a little less than it's worth to ship it across the ocean, to pay somebody like shit to sell that in a store whilst dealing with awful customers. And so like basically everyone up the chain from the very bottom to the point where you actually buy most things like a cell phone or something, everyone up that chain is getting fucked, right? Like everybody from the person mining the raw materials to the person who sells the thing at a store is getting underpaid for the value of their actual labor. Well, where does all that money go? I don't know, maybe to the guys who can single-handedly fucking afford to make a spaceship and launch themselves to Mars? For fun? Maybe it's those guys who have all of the fucking money. Like, where's the money going? Not to any of the people in the actual, like, economic chain. They're going to people outside of the economic chain because they have so much wealth that they don't need anything anymore. Which is the reason that trickle-down economics is nonsense, because people who can afford to make their own rocket ship do not need to buy anything that actually benefits the person mining the raw materials or the person building shit in a dangerous factory. Right? Like, neither of those people benefit very much from the guy who's like, yeah, I own 57 iPhone 14s, just so I can, like, throw them off a building online. Right? Like, that's the stage of capitalism that we're at right now. Is we're at fucking, like, well, I threw 7 brand new iPhones off of a skyscraper yesterday to see if they would break. They all broke. Ha 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 ha, so funny. It's funny. It's not funny, guys. It's very not funny. It's fucking awful. Sorry, I might have got on a little bit of a tangent there. Maybe there was a wee bit of a tangent. It was maybe not the most relevant, but I guess that's the point of videos like this, is to make me, like, talk about shit. Because normally I, like, forget to talk during my stream. This is me talking. This is it. This is why.
Like President Reagan taught you well, communism is very bad. And for the last 25 years, we Americans have been in a battle to stop it. One of the biggest parts of the battle has been a competition for global influence.
Influence?
Communism is very bad. We've been in a competition to get rid of communism, because obviously the space race actually was about something. Right, like, I don't discount the scientific progress of being able to go into space and study what other planets are made out of and stuff like that. The space race had no chance of ever, like, being a debate between economic policies, because, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. How there, like, the strategy that the media has is that they're like, oh yeah, the point of the space race was it would determine which economic policy was better by going to space. Except for America lost the space race, and then they were like, double or nothing, we'll put people on the fucking moon. And, like, after America won that put people on the fucking moon, we were like, haha, see, we totally won. And it's like, okay, but, like, you only really won because nobody else was actually competing. Because most sane people understand that, like, in reality, in the real world, space does not have that much. It's wild that we lost the first time since we had the advantage. Yeah, that is kind of wild. It's almost as if we didn't actually win, and, you know, nothing in America is actually about winning. It's about the concept of winning. And every war that America has fought since World War II has not been about winning fucking anything. It's been about making people think that you're winning. That's something that really fucking grinds my gears, right? The Vietnam War. I know people who fought in the Vietnam War, right? They have plenty of nasty stories and very racist slurs for anybody from Southeast Asia. But, like, the Vietnam War wasn't about winning anything. We didn't get anything out of it. It seemed to be more about testing bioweapons that the UN now would consider illegal, and then also would have considered illegal, and just kind of ignored. Like, you know, like, destroy an entire rainforest and give all of your troops cancer bioweapons. Like that kind of shit. Like, give children all the way born to this day medical conditions from conception due to the potency of these bioweapons. Like, that kind of shit. Like, it seems to be more about, like, putting on a peacock show and being like, look at all the cool bioweapons we have. Don't fuck with us. And then, like, you know, the entire, like, Middle East thing and everything America did. Like, America finally pulled troops out of Afghanistan recently. And then, you know, ISIS, like, immediately took over the country, because, I mean, the war was never about, like, taking land. Like, it wasn't a war that had any defined, like, goal, right? If there was a goal, right, like, you know, old wars, old-timey wars were about, we want this piece of land, or we want this resource. And so there was a point, right? You would go like, oh, we want that specific hill. We will take the hill. If somebody tries to stop us, we will kill them. And if they retreat, then we have the hill, so it's fine, the war's over. But, like, now, it's like, oh, look at our fancy drone technology. We could fucking just murder people from basically anywhere, and they can never tell it's coming. And maybe something to do with, like, we can take some oil and shit, but, like, otherwise, there's, like, no point. Like, some people will argue that the point of the whole thing has to do with 9/11, except for the fact that, like, the war started before 9/11, and the war didn't end until more than 20 years after 9/11, and the fact that the people who took over the planes during 9/11 and organized that attack and all of that shit, and, like, I know this sounds like crazy conspiracy stuff, but, like, if you look it up, it's actually true. The majority of the people who were involved in that were actually from Saudi Arabia and not Iraq or Afghanistan or any of those countries. And Saudi Arabia through the whole war has been our ally. So, like, it kind of seems like there wasn't actually all that much point in doing it. It seems like it was a way to spend surplus tax money, because, like, you got to do something with that, you know. Of course, you've got to do something with all the extra tax money that's not, like, giving empty homes to the homeless, or giving food to the hungry, or, like, making working conditions better in our country or other countries, because that wouldn't be profitable. So what you have to do is, like, make tanks and then blow them up with your own equipment to save money. The U.S. government would never lie to us again. Of course not. It's not like we have laws in this country that roughly 50 years after everything happens, the government has to make all, like, top secret things public information. And it's come out various times that the U.S. government, either the CIA or the FBI or someone related, was responsible for all kinds of shit. Like, it's not like the government lied during the Manhattan Project, where they had people making dangerous cancer-causing uranium in factories where they weren't allowed to know what they were making or why they were making it. It's not like shit like that happens in America, like, all the time. It wouldn't at all be the case that it came out years later that the deaths of a bunch of important people were able to be put directly towards orders by the CIA, right? Like, and this also isn't conspiracy, because this stuff is public records. The CIA was aware of or somehow linked to the assassination of Martin Luther King, right? Like, they didn't have one of their agents do it, but definitely money was handed to somebody through the government to, like, make sure MLK was, like, not a thing anymore. Wow, crazy. They wouldn't lie to us again about something else. Like, yeah, US is just quirky small boy. Just a quirky small boy. I'm just a small town. Just a very nice kind of guy. I'm like Clark Kent. Raised by good, loving folk, and I just have the best interests of the world at heart. I just want what is best for everybody. Okay, what if those people don't agree with you with what is best for them? Murder them with laser eyes! Yeah, that's a problem. Man, can you imagine the fact that we don't have very specific regulations over what kind of satellites you're allowed to launch into space, because our laws are behind the technology. So if individuals did want to make space weapons, they could do it. Right, like, I'm not saying they are. Like, I highly doubt Elon Musk needs space weapons. Like, if Elon Musk wants somebody gone, he doesn't need space lasers or something. But I'm just saying that, like, there's nothing that would prevent you, if you can get a license to launch a satellite, which is more a money process than a, like, actual, like, seeing if you're qualified process. You know, if you had the money to launch a satellite into space, you could put lasers on it or something. Well, lasers would be ineffective. You'd probably put railguns instead, but, like, you get the point. Oh, yes, Space Force, of course. You know, Space Force was basically meant for guys who make this kind of stuff. To just go, like, the space race was good. So, if we combine two good things, cops and space, then we must get a good thing. Space cops! Yeah, because we absolutely fucking need space cops. We don't have enough room in the budget to give the already empty houses in the country to homeless people, or to give the food that was already going to be thrown away and burned to hungry people. But we have tons of money to make space cops, even though there is nobody in space to cop. Right, like, of course, like, ACAB and everything, but even if you, like, believe in and already like cops, what's the fucking point of space cops? There is nobody in space to cop. There is no point. It's literally a fruitless endeavor. Right? There is no reason to have space cops. On top of the fact that just, like, any basic knowledge of biology or physics would tell you that space cops are a bad idea because it would cost too much money to bring them in and out of space, and living in space for any period of time is dangerous. You just wait, the moon wars are going to be insane. Okay, but why though? Like, we've already found that there's almost no valuable resources on the moon. That's the reason that we don't currently have moon bases. There's nothing there that we want. And whilst there's likely to be valuable resources on Mars somewhere, getting there and getting back is more effort than it's worth. Like, you know, just the most basic understanding of physics would give you the fact that the gravity well of a planet is very difficult to overcome, and it is not worth the resources that it takes to do so if you don't have a very specific goal and purpose. And what specific goal and purpose? Like, putting satellites above the planet to help with navigation and make life easier, to help with communications. That seems like a worthwhile endeavor. Why the fuck would you launch heavy, fleshy people up there? People are so bad at living up there, right? Like, if you're gonna do space missions, you would just do them with robots. 'Cause, like, robots don't need a bunch of very space-consuming resources to live, right? Like, you can just have a spaceship that is just a rocket and nothing else, and have robots man it, and, you know, if something breaks, like, just have the robots go and fix it. It would be easier to develop robots capable of that than to have manned space missions, because oxygen is expensive and somewhat limited as a resource. You need space. People will literally go crazy if they don't have enough space to walk around in. So you need lots of space. You need food and water. Water is fucking heavy as shit. Do you know how heavy fucking water is? Right? Like, imagine when you try to, like, pick up a 5-gallon bucket of water or something. Or even, like, a 1-gallon jug of lemonade. Or tea or whatever. Like, you know how heavy that is? Like, that's kind of like, ugh, that's heavy. So, trying to escape the gravity well of Earth with enough oxygen, water, and a pod with enough space for people to not go insane is not worth it. There's just nothing to do with it. And, like, space is by definition an area with almost nothing in it. So just space itself, like, you wouldn't want to go into deep space because there's nothing. And, like, yeah, theoretically, like, you could go mining on other planets, but even other planets in our solar system would be very hostile to any life from Earth. And all of the other planets, except for, unless you want to go to fucking Mercury, have a stronger gravity well than Earth. And, you know, you wouldn't go to fucking Mercury or Venus or some shit. That would be stupid. You just wouldn't. Because your spaceship would fucking melt. Even if the thing was fucking solid steel, it would start to fucking melt. So, that's pointless. And if you know anything about relativistic physics, you're for sure not going to other solar systems. Right? Like, even if, superliminal travel was possible, which by all calculations of every scientist in history, superliminal travel is not a thing that exists. If superliminal travel was a thing, it would still take decades to get to the nearest place where there's even anything. Right? Like, you would have to send babies to do the mission for them to not be dead by the time that they get there. And that's going at the speed of light, which is not even possible. Right? And that's aside from the fact that if you're going, like, sub-light speed, but you're doing, like, almost light speed, you know, that, like, 99% speed of light shenanigans, that's hoping that humans can survive that. That also has the problem of you having enough fuel to stop. Right? Like, the thing that a lot of people forget about traveling in space is it takes just as much fuel to stop as it does to start moving. So as soon as you reach 99% light speed, you would basically have to already start slowing down, which means that it would take for fucking ever. Yes, exactly. Astro babies are less efficient than robots, which is why we send robots. You heard me, Proto. You're going to space. You're a tiny robot boy. A tiny robot person. Tiny robots. Tiny robot. But yeah, Astro babies is some, like, dumb shit. Right? That's, I don't even, like, listen to people who talk about fucking, like, Astro babies as being, an actual thing. I'll make my planet proud. You better. Like, Astro babies is not going to be a thing. And I really don't think that there is going to be some sort of magical faster than light thing that they find, at least within the next 1,000 years or so. Because every calculation we have shows that any sort of travel beyond light speed is impossible. Even, fucking, like, quantum tunneling and, quantum tunneling and quantum linking, don't show so far the ability to even send any form of message faster than light. Like, on an individual scale, it might mathematically show being faster than light, but realistically, to reliably transmit even data, you have a hard limit of light speed. Now, you might be able to do some things with quantum tunneling that don't require a direct signal to pass information. You might be able to do quantum computing at a mass scale or something like that. But that's not going to make you travel faster than light. And not to mention the fact that you know, faster than light particles or travel existing sort of has the problem of, if it were possible, we would probably already know about it, being the fact that somebody would probably have sent a message back in time to tell us. Right. But of course, you know, that causes a conundrum, because it basically fucks up cause and effect. It shits on causality. Someone should have done it by accident at this point. Yes. Or, you know, like, obviously there's a causality problem of, like, okay, well, if somebody went back in time and told you how to make a time machine, then how did you ever figure out how to make a time machine without time travel? It fucks causality. But, you know, I think causality stays consistent because of a universal speed limit. I just really I don't think superliminal travel is gonna happen. I might be proven wrong. I sure hope I get proven wrong, and you know, like, CERN or somebody like finds some hope of that. But so far, even like quantum physicist calculations are only saying that, like, superliminal travel is possible by, like, individual subatomic particles or something like that, which is like that's not gonna help travel people, right? Like, even if you invent teleportation, you can't teleport people, because teleporting a person, even if you were able to put every atom in the same place that it was before, which is statistically unlikely to be possible, even if you did do that, that means teleporting would wipe your memory. Because, like, I think a lot of people will either focus hard on the biology or on the physics, and the people who focus hard on the physics go, oh, well, you know, you could, like, put all the particle, like, every atom back where it was before, and you would, like, basically teleport the person by cloning, but that ignores the fact that biologically, the way your memories are stored is they're stored sort of as a constant loop. You know, your brain isn't exactly a computer. It's sort of a fleshy amalgamation of one. And so your memories are stored by constantly resetting signals through the same wire back and forth to make a memory exist. It would probably be easier to transfer consciousness than safe teleportation. I mean, maybe, but here's the thing about a consciousness transfer. The problem with that being, it wouldn't be the same consciousness. Right? Your personality and brain, if you are a human like myself, I don't know about you robot peoples, but if you are a human, your personality and consciousness is defined by sending an electric and biochemical signal through your brain over and over again constantly. That's what makes you you. That's why when your brain stops sending those signals, you have memory loss, or you go into a coma, or you die. Right? Like, if those signals aren't being sent constantly, that's considered brain death. Your personality and memories stop existing when those signals stop constantly being sent over and over. So if you were to transfer a consciousness, you might be able to make an exact copy of a consciousness on, like, a computer, right? Or as close to an exact copy as would be possible. But that would then be a different person. Because as soon as the original signals stop, that person stops existing. And if the original signals keep going, then that wouldn't be a consciousness transfer. It would be a clone, more or less. It would be a mental clone. But the mental clone doesn't make the original stop existing. There would be two versions of you. Sorry, this is sort of unrelated to politics, and I don't know why I got off on this tangent. That's probably just, like, the evil scientist in me. Ranting about fucking quantum tunneling and the biology of consciousness and shit. Sorry, not sorry, I guess. If you didn't know about this stuff, you've just learned something. And if you did know about it, and I'm wrong in some way, just fucking tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. Like, do it. I don't actually care. I'm probably wrong about some things. I'm not really super into calculations, so, like, I understand a lot of basic ideas about things like, chemistry and biology and physics, but I can't really do the actual, like, math for most of it myself. I have to believe that the people doing the math know how to do math, but from the conclusions of the people doing the math, it seems that this is how these things work. Understand hypothetical technology more than Prager's clowns, obviously. Look. If you were to give these fucking clowns a hypothetical, they could not figure it out. Right? Like, if you were to give these guys the fucking trolley problem, they'd probably be like, okay, but how much do I get paid for letting somebody die? Like, I'm not gonna do that shit for free. That's how they would deal with this kind of stuff. They're like, well, there's 10 people on one side of the track and one person on the other. Well, I mean, which one has more money? How much is the trolley? Yeah, exactly. And a new answer to the trolley problem, the fucking, like, far-right, authoritarian capitalist position of, well, how much is the trolley? Right, like, they'd be like, well, how much does it cost to get blood off the trolley? Or like, well, do I have to ride that trolley? Like, am I gonna be late to my meeting because these fucking people are standing in the middle of the tracks? That's their kind of deal. Like, if I'm gonna be late, then no. I'm gonna fucking talk to the manager, okay? Right, like, if somebody fucking stops this trolley to prevent people getting hit, and I'm late to my meeting, oh, somebody is getting fired for that shit. No! You don't make me late. Do you know who the fuck I am? My vocals hurt. This stuff makes me so angry. Yeah, let's take a break from ranting about hypothetical technology and actually finish watching this thing.
Is that like when my mom says to be a good example for Leo?
It's pretty similar. In this competition for influence, America wants to show the world a way of life where people are free is better than the communist way of life where people are controlled by their government.
What does you and Buzz coming to the moon have to do with it?
In this competition,
because the American government does not control anybody. The American government, the most powerful government in the world, for sure does not exercise its power at all, or have any manner of control over its citizens or what happens within its borders. That's not a thing. America is about freedom. This video won't age well. This video hasn't aged well right now. This video came out in August of this year, and it hasn't aged well. Look at it. Look at its ratio. 36 dislikes to 22 likes. On a channel with 2,000 subscribers. Also, only 2.6 thousand. That's kind of low, but I guess it is like a side element of Prager-U that's for children. But like, their own video got ratioed to all shit. And because it's a kid's video, the comments are turned off. But I bet you if it had comments turned on, the comments would be ratioed as well.
We want to show that the American way of life produces better athletes, better art, better food, better everything. That includes better technology.
This doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, we had a space race to prove to Russia that American food is better because freedom? Yes. You totally prove to a foreign country that their socioeconomic system doesn't work, not through some sort of philosophical or political debate, or some sort of, international accords. No. You prove to them that their socioeconomic system is bad by going to space to prove that you make better food. Where's that fucking galaxy brain meme? The fucking, like, small brain, huge brain, galaxy brain? You know, like, tiny brain, little bean brain, having, actual, like, debates about, economic policies and political overreach. You know, like, slightly bigger brain, like, global accords or some sort of, like, UN meeting discussing how world, politics should work. And then galaxy giant massive brain Prager-U going, yes, the solution is to go to space to prove that you make better food under, I guess they would call our system democracy, even though, like, representative democracy doesn't even accurately describe what our system is, because there is no direct representation in our representative democracy. So, like, calling America democracy is to ignore the actual definition of the term democracy and just make up a new definition that counts America and the UK and Canada's political systems. It's just like making up a new definition for democracy. Who fucking knows? Who fucking knows?
And there's no better demonstration of technology than space exploration. We and the Soviets have been competing for years now to see who can win the space race. And until today, we kept losing.
America? Losers? No way.
America? Losers? No way. Like, this sounds so fucking sarcastic. Jeez. Yeah, it does sound very American. But, like, it's funny that they're like, yeah, we won the space race now that we're on the moon. But we were losing before, because, like, the actual race to, like, get people in space, we lost. And the race to get animals in space, we lost. And the race to make rockets capable of space travel, we lost. And so, the race even to get orbit around the moon, I think we lost. I think Russia got somebody in orbit first. We were just the first to get somebody to touch down on the moon and put a flag there. Like, dumb shit.
Hey, how?
First, we competed to see who could get a satellite into space. They won. Then the communists were the first to get a living creature into space. And then the really big one, the Soviets beat us into getting a man into space.
Wow. America totally won, It's not at all that you just gave all of the examples of Russia winning and doing better. Like, proof that America has better food and technology than Russia, so thusly our economic system is better, is that we lost the space race 3 fucking times. Like, these people seriously believe proof that we won is that we lost 3 out of 4 of the competitions. Yes, because if you lose to somebody in chess 3 times but win 1 time, you won. Also, wait, at the beginning of this video, the fucking kid was whining about, like, I got a participation trophy, and participation trophies are for losers. And yet, towards the middle of the video, there is, we won despite the fact that we lost 3 out of 4 times. It almost sounds like you want to participation trophy, America. It almost sounds like you want a participation trophy for losing so much. You just lost so much that you needed somebody to give you a nice pat on the back and tell you that you won just for trying your best. Wow, it almost feels like you're actually in support of participation trophies. You just don't like the term participation trophy because it makes you sound like less of a alpha male. I'm an alpha male who fucks.
We've had so many failures over the years, but we never gave up.
Were the failures devastating?
We failed, but never gave up. So we won because we kept failing and never gave up. Isn't that the definition of a participation trophy? Is you get a trophy for trying instead of for winning? Are you pro or against participation trophies? Prager-U. Are you for or against it? Because it sounds like you're for the American government getting participation trophies, but you're against actual babies getting participation trophies because it makes them like whiny beta males or something. What the fuck?
Did you get a participation trophy?
Nope, I didn't need one of those. And look, no one likes to fail, but it's the part of life.
We lost repeatedly, but only won 1 time. But we didn't get a participation trophy. It's not at all that America takes credit for being the second to put a man in space. It's not at all that all of our space centers have big plaques about how we were the second to get people in space. And how awesome that is that we did it before everyone except the Soviet Union. Come on, make it make sense. Like, make it make sense, guys. Jeez.
Life that leads to success.
Are you saying it's good to lose?
It's the pain of losing that drives a person to improve. So the road to victory is paved with losses. Without our losses in the space race, we wouldn't be standing on the moon today.
That's why it's so great when you have a coach who pushes you to be a winner.
After our losses, we were never rewarded or consoled. In fact, after the Soviets got the first man into space, the guy who was sort of like our coach, President John F. Kennedy, challenged our entire nation to work, to improve, and to do the unthinkable. JFK challenged America to be the first to put a man on the moon.
But why some say the moon?
JFK was really good at reading speeches. I will admit, JFK good at reading speeches. Was he good at everything else? meh. But he was really amazing at reading speeches. You know, there's a lot you can do with a teleprompter. But, you know, you have to be good at teleprompters to, like, read a speech that convincingly. You have to be really impressive at teleprompters. And, like, you know, if the Trump administration, not gonna lie, I forgot the moral of the story. The moral of the story, participation trophies are bad, but trying hard is good, actually. Yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that is the moral. Losing is okay, but participation trophies are bad. That's the moral. Thanks for listening.
Why choose this as our goal? We choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. It is a goal that will organize our energy and skill.
Will
It
it?
is a challenge we are willing to accept and one we intend to win.
Are you gonna win?
It sounds like President Kennedy was a good coach.
He certainly was a great motivator.
Sounds like Kennedy was a good coach. Describing the job of the president as just like the coach of a children's football team sort of explains why these people wanted Donald Trump as president. They, like, didn't want somebody who's good at economics or good at, like, social stuff, or somebody who's, like, particularly smart. They want somebody who's just like a football coach to be president. You know, just like everybody's least favorite teacher, the football coach. Okay, maybe that's a stretch. I do know people who actually really liked the football coaches and blah, blah, blah. But, like, in my experience, the football coach tended to have this, you know, sort of deal where, like, if you're, like, tall and muscular, then you're a good person and you get great grades. And if you are not that, then go F yourself and die in a hole, please. So, yeah, really, they just want alpha males, I think. I think that's the goal. I think they want alpha males.
He persuaded the government, private business, and every American man, woman, and child to make sacrifices and work together.
Okay, I really hate that make sacrifices shit. I really hate that. Because that rhetoric is super authoritarian rhetoric. That sort of like, everybody has to make sacrifices, right? Except for the people who, like, have all the stuff already. But, like, you know, your average Joe who ain't got much has got to, like, tighten their belt and, you know, work harder, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. Because everybody has to make sacrifices. But you want to bet that Elon Musk is making too many sacrifices that he can't afford, right? Like, do you think that John F. Kennedy was making tons of sacrifices to send a man to the moon? No, he was kind of sitting cushy in the White House, which is definitionally a mansion. Just kind of like chillaxing most of the time, you know, signing paperwork occasionally, stuff like that.
And in under 8 years, here we are. We won.
This makes me proud to be an American.
Me too. What an
I'm proud to be an American because we won 1 out of 4 battles. That totally gives me pride. I'm proud because we lost, but not always.
an accomplishment.
What are you going to do when you get back to Earth? Won't everything be boring compared to this?
I fell in love with the world of flight as an elementary student, and I got my pilot's license at the age of 16.
What? That's just a few years older than me.
I even flew 78 missions during the Korean War. And now, I'm the...
Okay, they want to bring up the Korean War, but they don't want to talk about what the fuck happened in the Korean War, do they? I sure bet they don't want to talk about how we also lost the Korean War. Whatever. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we will come back and watch more of these fucking atrocious videos. Honestly, this is more scary than the other Halloween content I've made. I made a video where I made, like, cupcake brains and shit. I've seen a lot of other VTubers play, like, spooky games for Halloween. This shit is scarier. Look at this face. Look at this face and tell me that it's not scarier. Tell me. Anyway, I'll be back shortly. I am back. My precious suckers, I am back. Hello. Let us see. They mentioned in it, is there... Let me go back to the channel and see. They mentioned a different video. No,
Grammarly?
no, don't. Stop playing things, please. One unavailable video is hidden. Oh, so they've already had to delete one of these. Adam Smith, Paul Revere, Ronald Reagan. Oh, but also, like, Frederick Douglass. Like, ooh. It's hard between seeing what they say about Reagan and what they say about Douglas. We'll watch some of Reagan. If it's not interesting, then it's not interesting. I mean, we could probably, like, skip part of it.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Layla.
Why are you pulling down our neighbor's fence?
Today, this is not a fence.
Oh, yeah? Then what is it?
It's the Berlin Wall, and I'm Ronald Reagan, our 40th president.
Yo, actually, like, a 7-year-old today probably does not know what the Berlin Wall is. They might have heard of it in, like, one movie or something. There's almost no way they know what the fucking Berlin Wall is. And the 40th president? Why? I don't... Okay, so, like, he's tearing down the Berlin Wall. But, like... What does that fucking have to do with kids in America today? Is it just that the people who make these things stopped paying attention to, like, the news in, like, 1972? And so, like, they just don't know anything that has happened after, like, 1972? I mean, yeah, I could have guessed that he likes Reagan, but like, do these guys just not know what is happening after like the 1970s? Like, there's a lot that has happened in the world since the 1970s, right? Like, what might be more important to explain to a kid today, if you want to make like videos about like important political figures, is maybe explain it. Even if you're going to lie about it, explain like what the fuck 9/11 is. Like, I was in school not all that long ago, and like, I was born only months before 9/11 happened, and even like growing up in a post 9/11 world, every year they show you like a whole bunch of videos in school about 9/11, except none of them really explain anything about like what was going on in the Middle East before 9/11, and they kind of skim over what happened in the Middle East after 9/11. They just kind of go, 9/11 is the worst event to ever happen in human history. And it's like, okay, but like, what about Nagasaki or Iwo Jima? No. 9/11, way worse than that. Okay, what about like the eruption of Mount Vesuvius? No. 9/11, worse than that. Worse by far. Okay, in what way? And then they just don't answer your question. They just like look at you like you're stupid and just refuse to answer. They just go, no, it was bad. It was awful. It was bad. But like explaining the context of stuff like that to children today would probably be useful, right? Like, it would explain to them a lot about why our economy works the way it does. Like, like, why did Dad lose his leg in Afghanistan? Oh, well, little Timmy, we're not going to talk about that. Like...
And I guess that means you're here to tear down the Berlin Wall?
You got it. I'm gonna set the East Berliners free.
Leo, I'm pretty sure that our neighbors aren't from East Berlin.
Well, they are today.
Whatever you say, Leo.
Did you know that Ronald Reagan was one of our most popular presidents?
See, this hasn't... Whoa, look at the fucking... Look at that ratio. Holy shit. Holy shit. I've seen creeps on Twitter not get ratioed that hard. Jesus.
Of course I knew that.
And did you know he was California's governor before he was president?
Well, duh. Did you know that he started out as an actor? He starred in over 50 movies.
Yeah, and he wasn't just an actor.
What? I don't know why everybody brings up the actor thing. Like, okay, he was an actor, not like a lawyer or something. Why does that make him more qualified to be president? I never understood that explanation. Yes. Being something that is not related to politics even tangentially will make you a better politician. Right? Like, politics is sort of like a game of monkeys flinging shit at each other. So, like, actually, being a celebrity probably makes that easier, not better. But, like, theoretically, politicians should be the smartest people in the world, right? Like, the economics geniuses, the people who like win like Nobel Peace Prizes, and the world's best scientists, right? Like, the people who make our school educations should be like philosophers and specialists in child psychology. The people who make our economics policies should be the world's best at, like, economics and math and, supply and demand. The people who make our like environmental policy regulations should be absolute geniuses in like weather fields or whatever, like the best weather scientists. I forget what the word is for weather scientists, but like those people. Well, that's a good reason those people don't lead us. They aren't stinking rich. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, why are those people? I would feel much safer with, like, the people who are good at things being in charge. Not the people who, like, just have money or are good at reading teleprompters, right? Like, I don't know. It might just be better if, like, people who are good at those subjects make those kind of rules, right? Like, you know who should really be in charge of, like, medical policy or setting up a medical system? Maybe the people who, like, do medicine, the people who, like, are doctors. But no. Those policies are made by politicians, and anymore politicians aren't even, like, lawyers or particularly well-read often. Like, besides the obvious examples like Trump of people who are, like, fucking not well-read at all, like, even if you go back in time, people like Alexander Hamilton is a good example. Benjamin Franklin, even though he wasn't technically, like, with the rest of the founding fathers, like, those really relatively smart people were much better qualified to do politics. Like, the reason that some of those guys were picked as founding fathers is because they were super well read on rulership practices, right? Like, those people read all of the necessary documents about, like, the French Revolution, and they read a bunch of I forget words. Words are hard sometimes for my brain, but philosophy, that's the word. Like, those people read a bunch of philosophers throughout history, right? Like, the only reason that they decided upon a representative democracy is because they were familiar with the ancient Greek system of democracy, right? Like, they were the most well-read people. If you were to ask any modern president, I think, or any, like, modern politician, like anybody in Congress today, about, like, what they know about ancient Greek politics, they'd be like, what the fuck does that have to do with me? I'm not some sort of fucking, like, nerd. I have people to read that kind of shit for me. Why would I know about it? Who gives a shit? Be like, oh, well, maybe that would be relevant to your job. Knowing about the world's, like, different forms of rule and knowing how they work precisely. But, these people think that communism and authoritarianism are the same thing, which doesn't make any sense, because if you don't know, communism is an economic sort of policy primarily that is about giving the government control of all of the resources to allocate to people. And authoritarianism is having a strong government that generally has one unified ruler, and kind of the concept of, like, ruling with an iron fist, being, like, powerful. So you can have non-communist authoritarians, which is the thing that I think most people on the right wing today don't understand, is like what the difference in communism and socialism is, what capitalism means, and fucking what authoritarianism is. Because they're like, well, you can't be communist, which is like evil and takes over everything, and capitalist at the same time, which you really can't. But those are economic systems and don't have to do with like democracy versus monarchy. So like you could have a communist monarchy or a communist democracy. You could have a democracy that is capitalist, or you could have a monarchy that is capitalist. But they think, well, because primarily they don't know or care about the definitions of words as much as how words make you feel. So they're like, well, communism makes you think of Russia and China, and so thusly communism is authoritarianism, right? And they think that socialism must be the same thing as communism because the National Socialist Party of Germany has socialist in the name. And it's not that authoritarianism can spread through all sorts of economic policies, including capitalism, though usually in capitalism, the authoritarianism results in a system in which the wealthy have more power. Which, like, the concept that power is money, like, everybody's heard the phrase power is money, or that money is power. But, like, money is power can only really exist in authoritarian capitalism. Like, in other systems, money is power. Like, might, to some extent, like, if you control, production of food, or you wreck the economy, that can lead to some amount of power. But, like, power and money being synonymous with each other to a T is really a capitalist construct that without, like, late stage capitalism, we wouldn't be, like, having money is the same as having power, and having power is the same as having money. They just would be different from each other.
Actor either. He was in the military during World War II.
You know what? He was actually great at a lot of stuff. He played college football.
He was also on the swim team.
He ran track, too.
They literally used the phrase he was great at a lot of stuff and then started listing the fact that he was an athlete. I think, like, they don't use the word for it, but they're more or less literally just saying all of the best presidents were alpha males who were also athletes. Or all of the best people. They're like, well, fucking Moon Man is good at sports. And the best president is good at sports. So being good at sports makes you a good person. That's what this is. You're a good person if you're good at sports. Bad takes. I'll eat my hat if they mention Watergate. I mean, if they mention it, they would just be like, the bad people in America, the communists, tried to fucking destroy me tried to destroy the best president with Watergate.
Plus, he was student body president.
And he was totally handsome.
Ew. Gross.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, so she literally just said in the last video that she's not 16 yet. She's like, oh, 16? I'm almost 16. So that means she's like 14 or 15 years old. And they just made a 14 or 15-year-old on a baby cartoon. hit on a fucking president from a billion years ago. Like, I understand that, like, in real life, that kind of thing happens sometimes, right? Like, that is gross. Like, in real life, sometimes, like, a teenage girl will be like, oh, that, like, older guy is, like, attractive. That happens, but, like, you don't have to put that in cartoons for babies. You could just not. You could just skip that. Or you could say something like, and he was considered a ladies' man. Right? You could say that. There wouldn't be a point in saying that because that's completely unrelated to the Berlin fucking Wall, which is what they're talking about. But like, you could mention it in a way that's not the fucking, like, 15-year-old girl character being like, and he was a total dreamboat, too. Like, the fuck? Why? Why would you do that? Ah, yuck. Like, that's so just fucking... Why? Also, can you imagine what these people would say, right? Because they're also always talking about how, like, the gay agenda is co-opting the media to indoctrinate children with gayness. Can you imagine if there was a cartoon where this situation was, like, a 14-year-old boy being like, Ronald Reagan is a total dreamboat. Oh my god. Like, do you know what kind of fucking shit they would say? They'd be like, they have destroyed our children. They'd be like, this is worse than murder. Their heads would explode. Like, there would be so much fucking shit. Like, Fox News would not stop talking about that for a fucking month if that happened. There would be no end to the whining.
What the heck, Leo?
Boy, I sure wish I could have met Ronald Reagan.
Well, why can't you?
Because he passed away in 2004 when he was 93 years old. I wasn't even born yet, and now I'll never get to meet him.
Geez, Leo, don't be so dramatic. We can just use my new time travel app to go meet him.
Really? Awesome.
You just tap here, and away we go. But let me get the settings right before you do that.
Ronald Reagan, here I come.
Oh no! They cheaped out on voice acting there.
Wow, is this what West Berlin looks like? Layla, look at that wall. It's huge. Hey, wait. Where's...
Look at that wall. It's huge. I bet they made East Berlin pay for that wall. It's totally massive. I thought these guys were in support of giant walls that separate economies from each other. I thought these guys liked that kind of shit. But do they not like it when it's in Germany, but they like it when it's in America? I thought they were pro-freedom. People free to do whatever they want. Do they like walls or do they not like walls? Huh? Or is it just, if America does something, it's good, and if it's done by somebody who's not a capitalist, it's bad?
Where's Layla?
What the heck? Where am I? Oh, great. Thanks, Leo. I better go find him.
That's actually kind of funny.
I can't believe I actually went back in time. Maybe I'll really get to meet Ronald Reagan.
Did someone say my name?
Wow, you're really...
Why the fuck is Ronald Reagan actually in Berlin? If that's actually the Berlin Wall, why would Ronald Reagan be there? Like, in person. What? Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that. Where's Reagan's stupid face? There he is.
Really get to meet Ronald Reagan.
Did someone say my name?
Wow, you're really President Reagan. Nice to meet you. I'm
No,
Leo.
I didn't know
came
that
here
he
from
tore
the
it down with
future.
his bare hands.
What are you
I didn't know
doing
that.
here?
Nice to meet you, Leo. I'm here in Berlin to stop the communists and end the Cold War.
Oh, man. All this talk about
I'm here to stop the communists. No explanation of what communists is, just that communists is bad. So we have to stop the communists. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the biggest fan of, communist economic policy. I think communism is better than capitalism, but I don't think, communism is without potential flaw. I don't think there is a system without potential flaw, but definitely, communist is just a synonym for bad guys, is really, really, lame rhetoric, really. Just, if you're just gonna be communism is the same as being a bad person, then you might as well just leave out the 3-syllable word and just say that, I'm here to stop the bad people. But, I do understand the purpose of this rhetoric. The purpose of this rhetoric is to mar any meaningful political conversation, right? If you've just taught people that certain words are evil without defining those words in any meaningful way, then you can just halt any political conversation or economic conversation by going, but the communists are bad. Right, I've had this problem before arguing when I was in school with people who were raised with far right, watch Fox News 3 times a day kind of parents, where you go well, we could discuss the practicality of communism versus socialism versus capitalism, and they just go, but communism is evil and the opposite of democracy. Okay, but no, that's not the definition, that's not the definition of the word. And, if you want to talk the opposite of democracy, well, there is no, exact opposite. Are you talking, a monarchy? Are you talking about, a forever president, which is more or less the same thing as a monarchy? You could be talking about an oligarchy or a pedagogy or any sort of, system of picking a ruler. And they would go no, communism is the opposite of democracy. And so, since they refuse to, define words, the argument is it just can't go anywhere because it's marred with emotional rhetoric without any sort of meaning, really. It's bad things is bad and good things is good. It's that sort of Jordan Peterson rhetoric. Stories have meanings universally, and you can't just ask the writer, what does this thing mean? A thing has a meaning, and all stories have an important meaning. Right? And it's okay, what does that mean? Well, stories that make you feel powerful are good for you, and stories that do not make you feel like God are bad for you. So thusly, anything that is propaganda is good. Basically. That's a heavy oversimplification of Jordan Peterson's books, but more or less Jordan Peterson believes that propaganda is actually good because it makes you feel good.
Communists is making me hungry.
Well, Leo, communism makes everyone hungry. People living under communism are often poor and don't have enough money for food. That's why we have...
Wow. It's almost as if you almost grasped the idea that communism, at least theoretically, evenly splits resources between everybody, which means that more or less everybody is poor. It also, like, ignores all examples of communism that do not lead to absolute financial ruin. It also ignores the fact that basically every modern day communist government has been hit with sanctions to the point that they've been starved through a sort of, like, tinkering. Like, yeah, sure, there's very few examples of communism working in the world, but more than half of the examples of communism working in the world, you have the problem of, well, they, like, switched governments and set up some sort of method of systems. You know, you have, like, Venezuela, or even, like, you know, modern Russia. Well, modern Russia kind of less so. It's not super communist. But, like, you know, every example of communism that you have, even Germany, you have this whole thing where capitalist countries and you know, the world's saviors, the superheroes of the world, like Ronald Reagan, will impose a bunch of financial sanctions and refuse relief efforts to any communist government, being that any hope that a communist government has of being successful, like proving whether or not it can be successful, like, you know, you could just let them prove that communism doesn't work. It might not work. But, like, it would be better if you proved that of its own accord, instead of, like, setting up blockades of ships that prevent those countries from importing any sort of resources, and then going, see, everybody under communism starves to death. Okay, well, yeah, if you used all your capitalist money to prevent them from getting food, then yeah, they do starve. That seems a little bit rigged. It's like, dogs are stupid and can't even hunt for their own food. If you tie them to a porch in a city where there is no food to catch, yeah. I have to head out, but thanks for hanging out. Well, thank you for hanging out, Proto. Have a good day. I hope that I didn't depress you with my whatever this is. Ah, shit. I keep accidentally clicking off of stupid Reagan.
Hungry.
Well, Leo, communism makes everyone hungry. People living under communism are often poor and don't have enough money for food.
I felt worse too.
That's why we have to stop it.
Have a good time,
I guess
Proto.
you're right, but can we have a snack first? I brought jelly beans.
Jelly
Leo,
beans.
thank you. That's my favorite snack.
It's too bad Layla isn't here to have some too. Hey, Mr. Reagan, can I ask you some questions?
Of course you can, Leo.
Why did they build the Berlin Wall in Germany?
That's a good question. We're in West Berlin, which is the free side of Germany. On the other side of the wall is East Berlin, which is occupied by the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, which is communist, built this wall during the Cold War to keep people locked in East Berlin and stop them from going to freedom in West Berlin.
We sure are lucky to be on this side.
You're right about that, Leo.
Why is it called?
They built the wall to prevent people from seeking freedom. So are you pro walls or against walls? I don't understand. So if it's keeping the people in, it's bad, but if it's keeping people out, it's good? What do you Are you for or against walls? Prager-U, are you for or against walls?
Called the Cold War anyway. It doesn't seem that cold.
It's not because of cold weather. It's called the Cold War because we were able to end the war without using any weapons.
A war with no shooting or bombs? How did you do?
Wait. Ending the Cold War with no weapon. That's not what happened at all. That's just not what the Cold War is. For one thing, the Cold War's not over. The Cold War never officially ended. The Cold War is still happening. But also, like, saying that the Cold War never involved any weapons completely ignores the space missiles and the cyber ops and shit like that are part of the Cold War. It even ignores, like, modern day accusations from both parts, like both Russia and the U.S. to this day, will claim that each other, like, ruined their election system. What do you mean? No. What? It's not like there's not casualties from the Cold War. We're just not allowed to know how many there are. Okay, sure, whatever.
Do that?
Well, everyone was afraid that the United States and the Soviet Union were going to shoot nuclear bombs at each other, but thankfully, that never happened.
A nuclear bomb would have been terrible. That's the biggest kind of bomb there is.
You're absolutely right, Leo. That's why we signed the INF.
Oh, I see. Wait, what's the INF?
The INF stands for Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Both our countries agreed to sign the treaty so we didn't have to use our bombs.
Is that all it took to end the Cold War?
Well, no, Leo. We also used our economy to win.
Economy? Isn't that money stuff? That sounds really complicated.
It's really very simple, Leo.
They literally put the word Reaganomics on screen as if it's not a fucking meme. It's a meme. Reaganomics is a meme. Why did you put it on screen? Prager, why? Why would you do this? Right? Like, really? You think Reaganomics are not the dumbest thing? What? What is wrong? What is wrong with you, Prager-U? What? Who hurt you? Who hurt you? If you think that Ronald Reagan's economic policy was good for literally anybody, except for maybe the top, like, 5% of super billionaires. Like, what?
We used a program called Reaganomics to make our economy strong. We cut taxes so that the government took less of people's hard-earned money away from them, and that led to more people getting jobs.
Okay, but that's not strictly true as to what happened. Right, like, what happened is a cut not to taxes for, like, the average person, and there were more jobs, but that was due to cuts for business taxes. They cut business taxes so that businesses could have more employees without paying as much taxes for it. It was like just explaining, like, taxes were cut so people had less of their money stolen. It's like not strictly what happened. Like, people paid as much, like, personal property taxes and like income taxes and stuff like that. It's like, I guess business income taxes were cut, but, like, personal taxes were not cut by very much under Reagan. That's, what are you talking about?
Blech. I don't want a job. I hate work. My sister Layla has a job after school, but I like to play after school.
Well, Leo, when you grow up, Getting a job and working hard is part of being responsible. I'm sure your sister is.
Of course, getting a job and working hard is totally good. That's absolutely why everybody in Congress has a real job and doesn't just make money through donations and stock trading. Yeah, for sure. Having a job is definitely the way to be successful. For sure. That's not a scam at all. That's for sure not a lie. Get a job. Get a job. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The economy's not fucked at all. It's good for you.
Working hard to find you right now. Thanks to everyone working hard, the United States economy was so big that the Soviet Union couldn't keep up.
You are amazing, Mr. Reagan. You saved everyone's lives and made them better at the same time.
Well, thank you, Leo, but the job isn't done yet. We still have one more thing to do. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Yeah!
Wow, they said the funny meme phrase from politics. Tear down that wall.
Freedom for everyone.
There you are, Leo. I've been looking for
She was at the White House and now she's in Germany? What?
you everywhere. What have you been up to?
Hi, Layla. You just missed it. President Reagan and I tore down the real Berlin Wall.
Ugh, I can't believe I missed it. You need to be careful when you time travel. My phone battery is almost empty and we need to get back before it's too late.
Okay, Layla. Let me say goodbye to Ronald Reagan first, though. Bye, Mr. President. It was nice meeting you. Thanks for beating the communists.
Goodbye, Leo, and remember this. It's never too late to fight for freedom.
Here we go, Leo.
Yay, we're back! Layla, you should have been there when Ronald Reagan told them to tear down the Berlin Wall. It was super fun.
It's okay, Leo.
I just realized the rigs for these animations, I don't think have 3/4 angles because the characters aren't like turned in to like talk to each other and the camera. They either look straight at each other or straight at the camera.
Leo, I got to do a lot of fun things in the past too.
Like what?
Glad you asked, Leo. Well, I went to the White House and met Nancy Reagan, the First Lady, and I learned all about their program to keep kids off drugs.
Just say no.
You got that right.
They literally mentioned the war on drugs like it's a good thing. These people are psychopaths. like actually they're like, the war on drugs, the best thing ever, that totally didn't get a bunch of people killed and imprisoned for no reason. That thing, that was great. We love and imprisoning people who have differently colored skin. Wow. Man, I just can't. I don't know if I have more to say about this other than, like, it's just bad. But you know it was bad. Like, look at the like to dislike ratio. Like, you knew it was bad. Right? Like, honestly, probably even the children this is meant for don't like it because it's really boring. Like, the children in the age group that this was meant for would probably rather watch, like, a Minecraft video or something than listen to something about Reaganomics. And you couldn't play this in a school where you have to learn, like, or you should have to learn economics, because, like, it's Prager-U. Like, maybe you could play it at a school in Texas or Georgia, but, like, you can't play it at a school. So it's kind of, like, pointless and bad. Right? Like, if you were to pitch to, like, somebody who actually makes cartoons, like Disney or something, like, we're going to explain the benefits of Reaganomics to toddlers, they would be like, you're smoking crack, bro. Toddlers don't care about Reaganomics. In fact, most adult people don't care about Reaganomics or know what that is. Right? Like, only people who follow American politics have even heard of such a thing. And, like, most modern day people don't follow politics because it's depressing. So, like, this is not for anybody. This is for nobody. No. Get out of here. No, get out of here, video. I don't know. Get it.
Right. Plus, I went to the Supreme...
No. Stop trying to show me this. I don't want it more. I don't want more of it. Videos about the American flag, how not to be a screen addict. Okay. Like, these are probably all weird and gross in their own ways. The Emperor's New Clothes. I mean, the tortoise and the hare is just normal. But they wouldn't have posted it. This has 59,000 views. What did they do?
You booked a cozy Verbo.
Stop playing ads, please. We're just going to ignore this because I don't feel like downloading an ad blocker.
Welcome to Otto's Tales. Story time brought to you by PrEP, Prager-U resources for educators and parents.
That's who this is for. I was trying to figure out who this is for, right? Like, you can't play this in a public school. And most people don't care about this. So who is this for? Right? You're making, like, political children's content. Why would you do that? I figured out who it's for. Of course. It's for homeschool parents. Not saying that there's anything per se wrong with homeschool, right? Like, homeschool as a concept is a good idea. The public school system is sort of screwed, and so a system in which, you can teach children the things they need to know is theoretically a good idea. In my experience, from the people I know who have been homeschooled, and the kind of people who do homeschooling, it's mainly for people with very bad ideas who don't want their children to know anything that might be contradictory to their obviously bad ideas. It's like essential oil Karens, anti-vaxxers, like people like young earth creationists who take their religion very literally and very seriously in a way that is probably dangerous. Your flat earthers, man, I went through a long phase where I dealt with a lot of flat earthers, and let me tell you, flat earthers love the concept of homeschool. Because in school, you learn, a not geocentric version of the world, where the world, is a spheroid in a universe of other spheroids, and they very much believe that teaching somebody that is akin to murder. So that's who this is for. This is for basically right-wing extremist parents who want to teach their young elementary school age children stuff about politics and economics for some reason that is more complex than it needs to be, and yet so oversimplified that it is not worth showing. Right? Like, I understand you have to simplify stuff for kids slightly, but kids will basically know as much as you tell them, could absorb a lot of information. So it's simplified enough that you can't get any useful information out of it. So it's just like simple phrases like communism bad and Reaganomics good, without any explanation of, like, you know, definitions or details or shit like that. Very convenient for making a bunch of little fuckheads in homeschool.
I'm Jill, and today I'm going to share one of Aesop's fables that you might have heard before, but with a new twist. It's called the...
What the fuck? This isn't funny.
It's called
Babies wouldn't think
The
this
Tortoise
is funny.
and the Hare. Once upon a time, a hare, a tortoise, and a fox met up to play in the forest. They had been best friends for years and shared countless fun and silly memories from the time when they were very young. Now that they were growing up, they each started developing very different talents. "Look how high and fast you can jump, Hare!" exclaimed Tortoise. Hare smiled.
Why is there a fox?
"Yes, I am learning how to hop higher and faster than I ever thought I would," he agreed. "And how wise you are becoming, Fox," Tortoise continued. "Thank you. I am starting to feel more clever with every day that passes," Fox admitted. Like I said, the three had been best buddies for a long, long time. But now, Tortoise was beginning to feel that he moved a bit too slow to keep up with his fast and smart friends. He couldn't help but worry if he was too slow to play with them anymore.
What? Okay, so why is the fox so smart? I feel like this is going to turn into actually being dumb is good kind of lesson. I get the distinct feeling that this is going to turn into a being smart is bad sort of thing, because it's from Prager-U, and what else would you expect? Knowing things is evil, obviously. Smarts is bad, 'cause am dumb, duh.
"Hey, let's have a race," Hare suggested, with a huge grin and a leap into the air. Hare loved to race. "Yes, I can be in charge of the start and finish lines," Fox volunteered. Tortoise felt his tummy flip-flop and ricochet all the way up to the top of his shell. "How can I compete in a race with Hare? Surely they'll both laugh at how slow I'll go. I'll never get to the finish line." Before Tortoise could object, Fox gave his friends instructions and swing and slow poke faster than the bonuses offered on his path. "I'll get some for my friends." He hopped up, out, north, south, all around and roundabout. But surely on the course. He was focused and determined. Compared to them, Tortoise persevered and kept slow poking, getting carried away with collecting fruits and berries for his friends. "Good thing I'm fast," he laughed, and beamed at the thought of winning the race and giving everyone lunch. "Steady wins the race," cried Fox. Tortoise was gleefully shocked.
Okay, so it's normal. Whoa! Hello, Russian karate. Okay, never mind. That appears to be a bot. Let me just, we can watch the rest of this while I do something.
And proud of himself for not giving up. A few minutes later, Hare came springing through the grass, higher than anyone had ever seen him bounce before. "I brought lunch!" he yelled. And the three friends celebrated Tortoise's win with more sweet treats than any of them had ever eaten before. The end. Now, this story teaches us a popular lesson about not giving up, but it also reminds us to not compare ourselves to others. The tortoise might have been slower, but because he stayed focused on his goal, he ended up getting there before the fastest of his friends. Hare got distracted, but he also accomplished something else that was suited for his special talents.
This is unfunny. Beyond unfunny, but also... I won't let me... There we go. That's the thing that I was trying to do. Okay. So yeah, this just seems like normal tortoise in the hare. They didn't really inject too much Prager-ness into it. It's fine. It's nothing. It's vapid and nothing, but like fine. Military appreciation wreath. I don't want to get into that today. That seems like its own video, perhaps.
Court and visited.
No. Let me. No. Okay, let's get rid of Prager Kids. Where is actual real Prager-U?
First man to walk on the moon.
No. Oh, where's their real channel? There we go. Here's the not kids stuff. We'll see what we can find in this mess. Cancel culture. I don't know if I feel like getting into cancel culture. Candice Owens. That's, ooh. Candice Owens is a whole shenanigan. If you don't know, Candace Owens is famous for being a right-wing commentator for, Prager-U. I believe she's been on Fox News. She goes on lots of those YouTube shows for that kind of thing. She is the black woman who is against, most things that most people of color's interests and most women's interests. So she's like, as a black woman, I can say that, racism isn't real and sexism hasn't existed for years. And that's her whole point. Progressive sounds of patriotism. Sure, this seems like something I would click on I shouldn't click on. It's not something I would click on, but it seems like something that could actually be interesting to watch.
Oh, didn't see you there. Well, once again, it's a time of the year where we celebrate the birthday of the US of A. You may think of hot dogs, fireworks, a day at the beach, and listening to some of those classic American songs you love. But since we now know that this country was built on stolen land and founded on the racist ideas of white men, any celebration of America is racist. It's time to update those old whitewashed American songs to reflect the...
Wow, they really... they lack subtlety. But here's the thing. That's not wrong. They always say these things like, oh, modern people think that, racism, or that America was built on racism and slavery and stealing land. And, okay, but where's the lie, though? It sounds bad when you phrase it like that, sure. But it's not a lie. Also, I love how their concept of a progressive is somebody holding a Molotov cocktail. As if right-wingers don't love weapons. As if conservatives don't love weapons. the progressive holds a Molotov cocktail. You know, a symbol of freedom from oppression. Like, pretty universally. Like, a symbol of stuff like the French Revolution. That and, like, guillotines. But no, it's bad because it's not a shotgun.
The progress that we've made. So we're proud to introduce progressive sounds of patriotism with songs you're sure to enjoy no matter what your preferred pronouns are. Songs like Grand Old Pride Flag.
Colors, design, and gender are subject to change.
Yankee Doodle Dismay.
Grand Old Pride Flag. Wait, so they're making fun of the fact that the pride flag occasionally changes, which is technically an accurate criticism of the pride flag. It has changed, and I would say that having a very easy to read flag with that many colors is difficult, but, you know, that is a criticism from the side of, like, flag design, right? And, like, adding stuff like combining the pride flag with the trans flag and the POC flag does make a bit of a complex flag that is very difficult to recreate. So, like, that is potentially a criticism, but somebody who likes the American flag doesn't really get to make that criticism, because the American flag has so many tiny little stars that you actually can't tell how many it is, and has also changed in a lot of ways over time. And, like, one of the main reasons given in the modern day for why we don't add more states from the colonies that we have, other than just, like, purely racist reasons, is simply to do with the fact that we would have to change every flag in the country again.
Mantled. This land is stolen land.
Where's the lie, though? It is stolen land. Like, that's not incorrect. There were several dozen small countries, basically, in the U.S., many of which were controlled more or less by nomadic peoples who didn't, directly live on every part of the land that was part of their territory. And so, yeah, it was, like, straight up stolen from already existing countries. That's not factually wrong. So I don't really understand what the point is. Like, it's not factually wrong that that's the case. Is this supposed to be a funny joke? Haha, we committed theft and racism. And guns and germs and steel. Ha ha ha. Like, what?
This land is stolen land. This land is their land. From Navajo Nation to the stolen islands. Workers of the world.
Okay, but where's the lie, though? I don't know what else to say except for, yeah, it is stolen land. Like, also, I love how they put this anarchy symbol here. That's really funny to me. But, like, okay. What is their problem with the stolen? Are they trying to claim that it's not stolen? Is that the joke? That the stolen thing isn't true?
World unite around the sickle-spangled banner.
Okay, without that second part, like, that does sound like a list. Workers of the world unite. Like, that sounds like a bumping, like a work song. You know, sort of the way work songs are a genre that include a lot of different things. Like, different kinds of sea shanties are work songs that are meant for, like, pulling ropes to raise sails and stuff like that, or hauling in nets. A lot of those songs are work songs, as well as famous like chain gang songs are also work songs. So like Workers of the World Unite sounds sick. Workers of the World Unite. It actually it makes me want to like sing it to the beat of Diggy Diggy Hole, which is also a modern day work song, whether you like it or not. You know the I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole, diggy diggy hole. That like Yogscast song that was a meme that became like good. You know, like Workers of the World Unite, ba da ba da da. Like that sounds lit. Why are you complaining, Prager people? Why? It sounds lit. The sickle banner thing is like silly to me though. Like obviously the sickle flag is directly representative of the Soviet Union, but like it's because what became the Soviet Union's government started as a workers' party, and that workers' party was more or less a workers' union that included farmers, which is why their logo is a hammer and sickle, because it is supposed to unify laborers and farmers. You know, laborers like carpenters and plumbers and, you know, people who would use a hammer, with farmers who would use a sickle. So like what happened to the conservatives of America being pro-farmers? Are they anti-farmer now because farmers like unions? What? Like, why are you anti-union? That doesn't fit your base. Well, your actual base is incredibly wealthy people, but it doesn't fit the people who you pretend that your base is.
Battle hymn of the Marxist utopia. Some gave
Battle hymn of the Marxist utopia. Look, I'm not saying that Marxist utopia is possible. It's probably not going to happen anytime in the near future or ever, because I think utopias are what you wish for, but are unlikely to happen in reality. Right? Like, you know, I would love a utopia, but realism would state that, like, real life is never going to be a true utopia. You can just do whatever you can to make it as good as you can.
Gave all their money to socialism.
Some gave all their money. These people literally don't understand the definition of socialism, do they? Gave all of their money to socialism. Okay, what if you just... Like, I could make the same joke the other way, and it would be equally as not funny. Right? Like, if I made the joke, like, some gave all their money to capitalist pigs, like, it would be the same joke. It's still not a particularly funny joke either. But, like, some gave all their money to the capitalists so they could make colonies on Mars so they don't have to breathe the same air as other humans. Like, I could say that. It's not a good joke, though.
Take me home, communist roads. Forget America the Beautiful. We're doing America.
Take me home, communist roads. Okay, but, like, one of the biggest problems with America today is we have no good infrastructure. All of the infrastructure we have is set up around cars and is old. We don't have any, like, modern trains, really, except for a couple of subways in populous parts of the countries. Like, despite being one of the largest countries geographically in the world, we don't have, like, a train system to get from one side of the country to the other cheaply and easily. Even though, like, we have the money and technology for bullet trains, right? Do you know what you could do moving a supersonic train from like New York to LA? Like, that would be crazy, but we don't have infrastructure for it because all of our infrastructure was built way back in the like olden days when they were building like Hoover Dam and stuff, and they were like, these newfangled cars need to get places, let's build some roads. Okay, but like all of our roads are shit. Like, if you've driven on any road outside of a major city in the US, you will know that most of our roads are old and shit. And even though the fact that they're constantly under construction, the repairs do not happen at the rate in which the cheap repairs go bad. And so thusly, the roads are always shit in most states. In most states, the roads are pretty fucking awful. And we have paid roads. A lot of our roads are roads that you have to pay to go on. Because if you go on the unpaid ones, you know, you're going to get a pothole that's deeper than your wheel well.
America the bigoted. America, America, shine down critical race theory.
Of course, these guys hate critical race theory. These guys would hate the idea that, like, race is more or less an illusion that just picks an in-group and an out-group, and that race is, like, not really genetically real, so it's not, like, scientifically real, and it's a social construct that really just hurts people. These guys would hate a world without racism, even though these guys do crazy stuff. They, at the same time, say racism isn't real, but also that, like, race has to be real. Otherwise, everybody would just be black. Right? Like, they don't understand the fact that, like, race is a construct. They're like, no, race is a, like, factual part of reality. Even though, like, what they really mean is, like, the color of your skin can be different. They're like, well, it's an observable fact that some people have darker skin. And they somehow separate that from, like racism as in, like, socioeconomic policies that disenfranchise people who are not part of an in-group. And they're like, oh, that thing doesn't exist. And it's like, okay, but that thing is what laws are. And, like, you can, you know, tell by reading and with math that those laws disenfranchise people of racial minorities and lower socioeconomic status. The 3/5 compromise is in the Constitution, dumbass.
And crown minorities with all authorities from he who changed to she.
Okay, that's also just a lame bad joke. 'Cause, like, more or less the point that you're getting at is like, yes, we have made it so the minorities are in charge. Which is just not true with any sort of statistics. Like, it's very easy to find, you know, the, like, graphs that show, you know, how many people, like, in politics or how many people in positions of economic power, you know, like CEOs and stuff, are part of minority groups. And even though most of those statistics are self-reported, I highly doubt that, you know, there is the same proportion of, like, black trans women CEOs as there are cis white men CEOs. That's just not a thing. Like, that's just not how that works. And even if you go by, oh, well, it's a minority of population, so it should be a minority of people, we know the stats for how many people in the country consider themselves black, and that percent of people in the country overall, there is a lower proportional percent for how many, like, billionaires are black. That's just a thing. So these guys are just dumb, I guess.
Who's got time for parties when we've got to go to the race riot in the USA? The old flag isn't just rugged, it's a racist old flag, courtesy of the trans, black, and Latinx. You can't have patriotism without pride.
Did they just say Latinx as Latinx? Do they not even know how to pronounce the phrase Latinx? They don't even know how to pronounce the phrase Latinx. They just called it Latinx. I don't think anybody ever has said the phrase Latinx as Latinx. Right, that sounds like a slur. It sounds like they just made up a new slur. They're like, oh, phrases like Latino are, like, not inclusive, so we're going to make a slur instead. That sounds like what they did.
God bless the U.S. gays. American birthing person. Bye-bye, Miss American BIPOC. The kids will be learning this one in school. Critical race theory, 'tis of thee.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know why these kind of guys always complain about, like, learning critical race theory in school, because that's not a thing, right? Like, maybe if you live in a major city in the country, there might be an elective class that will briefly go over the concept of critical race theory. But listen, I'm from out in the Midwest. It takes a whole load of shenanigans to even get any mention of race, right? Like, I took 2 elective classes in school that were about analyzing media and politics. One was a journalism class, and the other was a media studies sort of class that had a strong focus on politics. And let me tell you, even in those classes, during the same year that Trump was elected, it was like pulling teeth to get anybody to discuss critical race theory. Right? Like, even bringing it up caused a collective groan throughout the class, and the teacher refused to comment because one of the teachers for those classes was, like, very, very politically right-wing, so he didn't want to, like, talk about that kind of stuff. But, like, you know, if you're discussing, like, the whole, like, Mexicans are rapists thing that happened that year, you have to sort of discuss some elements of racism. But, like, getting that discussed in politics classes is like pulling teeth. I don't know where these guys are getting the idea that they're, like, teaching middle schoolers critical race theory. I wish they were doing that. They're not. That's not happening.
White guilt classic, ashamed to be an American.
They just unironically use the phrase white guilt. Look, you can feel white guilt, even though there's not a super big reason for you individually to feel guilt of your ancestors. But just being like, the reason white guilt is bad is not because you're like down on yourself or something out of your control. It's because white people never did nothing wrong. Like, no, that's not what you should be taking from it. And also, if you actually understood the thing you just made fun of, critical race theory, you would understand that who counts as white has changed over time a lot. And so, like, not all white people would even fit into any of the same groups that you would put yourself in the modern day. Right? Like, you know, when we talk about, like, white people who owned slaves, we're actually primarily talking about wealthy plantation owners. We're not talking about, like, your average Joe. Your average Joe doesn't have hundreds of slaves because they can't afford it. Right? Like, most people in the modern day would understand how expensive it is to take care of a large dog, right? The amount of, like, money and resources needed. Now imagine that on the scale of, like, a human person. Maybe you have kids and you know, like, how much it costs to take care of, like, a small human. Okay? Now think about how much it costs to take care of, like, you and your family. Maybe, like, you and your significant other, whatever. Now imagine multiplying that several hundred times. Right? Like, no, this is a rich people thing. And the difference is more about economic class than it is about racial segregation. The only reason for the racial segregation to be instituted as part of the legal system was a way to prevent plantation owners from themselves becoming slaves. Because, like, if you can just enslave anybody, then you can just enslave anybody. But, like, it really was more to do with economics than race originally. Because, like, it's not like they got the idea of slavery out of nowhere. It's not like the first people they kidnapped out of Africa were the first ever slaves to exist. Right? There was slavery in America before they were kidnapping people out of Africa. It just wasn't race-based. Or at least it wasn't, you know, only race-based. There were other factors, like debt slavery, or like the forced marriages, or like whatever the hell they were doing to Native American children. That was some bullshit, but probably also considered slavery by a modern definition. So, like, you know, these people just don't feel like understanding nuances of any topics. They're like, haha, it's funny to say that critical race theory is bad.
Shame to be an American where I know I'll never be free. And I'd like to blame all the white males who took that right from me. So I raise my fist up next to you at the protest here today. And I proudly say, I hate this land. Dismantle the USA.
Okay, like, problematic lyrics, but, like, he's not saying anything particularly, like, wrong. Like, I would phrase it in a more nuanced way, personally. That, you know, the current political structure of the USA is not beneficial to the majority of people, and so an installation of a new social and economic system would benefit more people, though is unlikely to realistically happen because the modern American military is kind of too powerful for coups to work. Like, you know, these same kind of guys were, like, trying to, like, storm the Capitol building and stuff. like the far right conservatives who are like, they've stolen the election, blah blah blah. But like, I don't know. The modern American military could not allow a coup to happen for a multitude of reasons. But the main one being, even if like every member of Congress was assassinated or something like that, which, just to be clear, because this is the internet, is not something that I want to happen. But even if that did happen, we have systems in place to reelect those people, and those people would all be replaced with the exact same milquetoast rich people, right? Like, there's a reason that you can't tell them all apart generally, except for like one or two people. Like Bernie Sanders and AOC are like some of the only people in the government that you like remember their names. That and like Ted Cruz, right? Like, if I hadn't followed the election so closely, I could not tell you what Joe Biden's name was. Like, Joe Biden is bland and milquetoast and unmemorable, and most of those guys are the same. Wealthy, bland, and unmemorable. So, like, even if you got rid of them through, like, a violent coup, it wouldn't actually change the system unless you put forth the necessary effort to go through a whole kind of civil war. And the problem is, almost any political group in the country would lose a civil war because they would not be, or like, at least the theoretical groups that these kind of guys are like worried about, the communists or the socialists taking over America with their critical race theory. Well, the majority of, like, socialist and workers' party people I know are not pro, like, excessive military spending. So, if they were to somehow do a coup, again, not saying that a coup is a good idea, just to cover my bases. But if they were to do a coup, it would be unsuccessful, mostly just due to the power of the modern American military. Like, we've seen recently that American military drones are so good at killing that the American military can't even keep them from killing people, right? Just like, random like school buses and like guys delivering water to their families and stuff. Our military can't even keep the drones from killing those people. So, like, if they just wanted you gone, you would just be gone. Not to mention the fact that, the CIA, throughout American history, has slowed or stopped political movements in the U.S. before they have a chance to really get going. Right, like they were slow on the civil rights movement a little bit, but like the Black Panther Party was dismantled before it even had a chance to go anywhere. Like the CIA was like, no, that's potentially dangerous, and like took them apart from the inside. So the only way a coup could even possibly be successful is if it was an even more, like, pro-capitalist authoritarian coup that, like, the CEOs and military leaders would just ignore. And, I kind of doubt that they would even really want that to happen, because any change of government is bad on the stock market. Right, like any sort of civil war or political infighting or stuff like that is overall really bad for the stock market. It makes American stock values drop. So they just wouldn't let it happen. It would be cheaper to, like, kill every single member of any party trying to do a, like, violent coup than it would be to watch American stock values drop with rumors of a second American Civil War. That's just realism for you. That's just how it is.
Who needs Independence Day when you can celebrate Helpless Victimhood Day? The perfect lullaby for your anchor baby, illegally immigrated to the USA. Hail to the Chief Diversity Officer.
Okay, so now they're making fun of a made-up concept, anchor babies. Well, I guess it's not an entirely made-up concept. It's not like nobody's ever done that. But it's been done for a long time. You know, people on, like, temporary visas have done that, or, like, moved to America to get married and stuff like that forever. Irish people did it when the Irish were immigrating to America, and in America, the Irish are considered white, even though that wasn't always the case in the rest of the world, right? Like, there was a time where Irish people were not part of the in-group of the world, and, you know, if you know anything about the history of Ireland, that was a very bad problem for a while. You know, if you've ever heard of something called the potato famine, that was a thing. Also, I believe that ended with almost literally eating the rich, so take that how you will.
Much more inclusive than white and blue, red, black, and brown. We all have that friend or family member who still proudly displays the American flag and stands for the national anthem instead of kneeling. And this album is the perfect gift to educate them about the...
I don't get what these dudes' deal is about standing for the national anthem. It's a fucking bad song. It's not even a good song. It's just a lame song. It's just boring. Who actually care? Like, before there were, like, black football players kneeling for the national anthem, nobody gave a shit if somebody didn't stand up. Like, nobody cared. It was a non-issue. Until, you know, people of color who also happen to play sports were like, oh, well, actually we can use this to put across a useful message. To which these guys go, useful messages? Fuck off. Go die.
Their white privilege and how to stop being a racist bigot. For 3 easy payments of $16.19, this album could be yours today. But wait! If you call now, we'll make a donation to a Puerto Rican grandmother whose home is falling apart due to neglect by her rich American family members.
You might as well order now, because we're going to take all of your...
Oh yes, for sure. Oh, well, for one thing, rich American family members would give the impression that somebody from Puerto Rico is not American. Puerto Rico has been an American colony for a long time, and anybody born in Puerto Rico is an American citizen. So that's silly. But also, like, it is factually true that Puerto Rico is falling apart because they don't really have funding, and part of the reason that is because Puerto Rico is not a state, so they do not get any of the benefits of being a state, including representation in Congress, which sort of makes that whole, you know how the conservatives love the don't tread on me, no taxation without representation thing? Puerto Rico is more or less similar to a small state, something like Rhode Island or Hawaii, except for the fact that they do not have representation in Congress. Everybody who is born there is a U.S. citizen, but they also, I believe, due to that working, they can be president, but they don't get to vote for who gets to be in Congress or the Senate. Or they don't at least have direct representatives or sort of direct representatives in that matter. So, like, shouldn't the people who are against taxation without representation be pro Puerto Rico and not against it? Or are they only against it because most people in Puerto Rico have tan skin and speak Spanish? Oh shit, I restarted this. I don't feel like doing this again. So, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna be ending it off there. That was... Would I call it fun? No. Would I call it self-inflicted mental and emotional torture? And throat pain-inducing pain fest? I used pain twice. Shit. Yeah, I would call it something like that. But quickly, before we end here and before we locate somebody to raid, I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow morning I'm doing another episode of Taste of Villainy. I'm doing a special Halloween episode wherein I make candy. I'm probably making lollipops, so that will be fun. Come hang out. Come watch me make candy from scratch. I'm going all the way back, making candy from scratch, like the old-timey way. I'll show you how to do it, and it'll be very evil, and probably delicious enough. Hope I don't burn it. But we'll see what happens. I haven't practiced in a while. I used to do it all the time, but not recently. So that'll be a thing. And let's look for somebody to raid. Let's see who is online on the twitch.tv. Okay. Okay, it looks like Ulner is alive playing some Pokemon, which is pretty rad. So let's go ahead and give her a raid. And let's get lots of mwahaha's and some hype in the chat when we raid. And until I see all of you suckers next time, I've been Jet Tentaco, and I've got a jet. See you tomorrow.